Inspired Coach, or a big hello to you if you are joining us for the very first time. In the 2024 year, this is our very first success story that we are bringing you today. And what a truly beautiful, soulful, spiritual, amazing woman this coach is. Her name is Keri Kugler. Let me tell you a little bit more about this incredible, beautiful you coach and alumni. Keri is a life coach, heart-centered business mentor, and host of the award-nominated Aligned Woman podcast. She believes every woman on the planet has access to a power within her that is stronger than any force we have ever known. Keri is on a mission to help women build the life and soul-led business of their dreams, one that is rooted in personal power, leadership, and full-bodied alignment. She creates a space for women to take off their armor and feel safe in being fully seen, a space where vulnerability and raw truth are welcomed with open arms. Wow, I just love that. I'm sure that you can probably hear the beautiful soul of Keri come through so clearly in that introduction, in that bio of hers. And you're about to learn so much more about this truly incredible coach, how she came to coaching from a background actually in retail, once again showing us that people come into coaching from so many different walks of life. Keri speaks in this interview to what helped build her confidence as a coach, the very big leap of faith that she made in the early years of her coaching, not long after she studied with us. And Keri also speaks in this interview as well about the impact that she feels her podcast has actually had on her coaching success. And that is a really interesting part of this interview. So if you are a podcaster or you're thinking about starting a podcast in the future, this is a really wonderful interview and success story to lean into, because Keri speaks about that more. And I can't wait for you to learn more about podcasting and the role that she feels that has played in her coaching success. Enjoy this beautiful interview with Keri ahead, and all the success that she has created in her beautiful and thriving business. Keri Kugler, welcome to Inspired Coach Podcast. I am so delighted to have you on as our guest today to talk about your truly incredible and inspirational success story.
Thank you, Julie, so much. It's an honor to be here, truly. So just thank you. I'm so excited.
Keri, take us back. Take us back in time, because you are now running a full-time, thriving, gorgeous coaching business as a graduate of the Beautiful You Life Coaching course. But that doesn't happen overnight, and it's now been that way for many years since we have known each other. So I'd love for you to take us back a little bit into the Keri histories and archives and tell us, what was life like for you, and where were you at when you first started to think to yourself, I'd like to become a coach?
Yes, thank you for that reflection. Just you saying I have a gorgeous coaching business coming from you, that means everything. So thank you again. So in 2017 is when I learned about Beautiful You. And at that time, I was teaching yoga and working full-time in a leadership position at Lululemon. And inside of that leadership position, I was able to help people on the retail floor with their goals and personal development. And I was able to, at the time, because this was, again, 2017, my experience anyway, the coaching industry hadn't exploded yet like it was today, for me anyway. And so I didn't even know at the time that helping people with their goals, I didn't even know that coaching was a thing. But what I did know was that helping people in this way lit something up in me that I had never felt before. It was like teaching yoga, but it wasn't just about leading a class. There was this one-on-one support that I loved so much, like seeing someone have that light bulb moment, or having somebody come into Lululemon the next day and be like, Keri, I did the thing that I, put on my vision board. That lit me up so much. And I just knew, like, I want to take this to the next level. And somebody recommended, like, oh, have you ever worked with a coach before? And I hired my first coach, and I remember telling her, like, I would absolutely love to do what you do, because she helped me so much at the time. It was unbelievable. And she said, oh, well, what's stopping you? Go research some certifications. And I was like, oh, I probably would have sat on that for like months and never moved on it. But she was like, just go do it. And I searched maybe a day and felt the strongest pull towards Beautiful You. And within days, I was signed up for the certification, went through the certification while I was working full time and teaching yoga. And that's like where it all began. That started the unfolding of where I'm at now, and then me taking my business full time.
Well, thank you so much for sharing that with us, because I did not know that about you. I am learning, which is one of the great joys for me of this podcast, is that I learn new things about people and coaches in our community and other coaches as well that I get to interview all the time. And I just love hearing stories about the different starting points that people come from. So you've come from retail, a completely different industry altogether. Now, mind you, working for a company like Lululemon that clearly has a vested interest in personal development. So that was certainly something that was there. But it's always wonderful to just learn about where different people start, because it then helps people to see themselves in different people and their journeys. So, Keri, you've started out on this path and you're studying to be a coach. Along the way when you were studying, was there ever a time when you thought to yourself, gosh, I'm not so sure about this anymore, or I'm being stretched and challenged in a particular way? Or was it just like, oh yeah, I'm in the zone now and this is it. I've made the right decision for me?
Yeah. Ooh, I will say both, because, and I see this now looking back in hindsight, and this was before I even knew what it was. There has truly, since day one, been this inner knowing that I'm here to help people on a really deep level. It's just something that has always been there. And it's been there not because like I grew up with it or I was taught it. It's because I have gone through a lot of adversity and hardship. And I believe that that's what created this inner knowing. It wasn't this like sky parting, like butterfly rainbow, like, this is what you're here to do. It was like, no, like my past and everything I've moved through, like that is what created that inner knowing. And I had that, and I had to move through so many moments on my journey, particularly when I was in training with Beautiful You, that completely rocked my foundation and had me doubting, is that inner knowing actually real? Some of those things were family members questioning me, friends talking about me trying to put myself out there online and getting a lot of just backlash from people in my community being like, who does she think she is? What is she doing? And then I remember a very specific moment when I sat down and I had coffee with somebody that I looked up to really, really looked up to her. And she told me flat out to my face, I told her what I was doing about my coaching journey. And she said, I just do not believe in what you're doing. And it shattered me. And that was really one of those challenging moments when I had to assess and come back to my center. It was not easy. It did create so much shakiness in me. And I see now that because I got through those moments, I've been able to hold more, because things like that, for me, you don't get to this point where it's like, oh, everything's smooth sailing. I've got it all figured out.
Absolutely not. And you know what? Thank you for being so vulnerable and sharing that with us, Keri, because, I have heard in varying different ways people that might have the occasional person pop up in their life that kind of looks at them quizzically about this coaching thing, but not that much. That's a lot. That's a lot of criticism and opposition to have had to deal with when you were first starting out here. But years later, look at you. Like, look, you obviously, there was that inner knowing was right, not the outer commentary, right? Mm-hmm. Your inner knowing was the thing that was right, because here you are so many years later running this incredible thriving business, specifically supporting women in what I see as a very sacred leadership, soulful orientated way. And I want to talk to you more about the specifics of your work, but I can't go past this part of your story now. I've got to go in a little bit further and say, what pulled you through? How did you pull yourself through this and keep going when you were facing such criticism and opposition and questioning?
Mm-hmm. And it's interesting, it's just a story that I tell that's so like, oh, it was just a part of my journey. Now, granted, this was spaced out between, the 8-9 months that I was in training, right, up until the beginning. But it's actually to hear myself say it and just to hear that reflection back, that's a lot to hold. That's a lot to hold, especially at that time. I was a little chicken nugget. I didn't, I didn't know what I was doing, and I didn't have that kind of inner strength and resiliency that I have today. So it was a lot to hold. And to answer your question, my coach at the time was a huge, huge support system, because she had been through similar things. So just to have someone there that had been through the fire in a similar way, to just, hold up a mirror to my power and be like, hey, you can hold this. So that was huge. My husband is and always has been my biggest fan. So he got me through a lot too. And then I have to come back to just that inner knowing. I didn't just skate through it, or, there was no personal development practice I could just slap on it. And it did take me a while to get over some of the criticism, especially stuff that was just coming from like family members. So I let it just hurt, and I processed it, but I just kept going. And that inner knowing that was there, it's like, okay, it hurts and it's okay. Keep going. One more step forward.
Yeah, one more step forward, being in action like all great coaches are, and help their clients to be as well. So Keri, let's talk a little bit more about that action. You've graduated from Beautiful You. You've followed your heart and this inner knowing to train to become a coach. What was the first year like out for you, right? And tell us about your transition from working at Lululemon and maybe other places in that period of time to moving into being a full-time coach, and some of the key things that you think that you did that really attributed that possibility to you.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I want to start with what attributed that being a possibility was honestly the pro bono work that I did inside of the Beautiful You course. That I have goosebumps right now just thinking about that. It was one thing to coach at Lululemon, but when I had my own clients, and granted, like it was pro bono work, that's the moment it clicked for me, and I fell in love with coaching, like the art form of coaching. So and it just, to me, and not that this has to be the case, because but it came very like natural and innate for me. It's not to say that I didn't feel shaky and I was like, oh my God, can I do this? Am I like asking the right questions? I had all those things going on, but it was just witnessing a transformation in someone else, no matter how big or small, that really solidified that despite anything that's happening, this is what I'm meant to do. There's no way it could feel this good if I wasn't meant to follow this path. So it was really just like jumping into actually helping and serving people, because it's the service element, to me, that can get you through anything, right? So that was big. And then to circle back, my first year of coaching, I think is a little bit, I don't know. I don't want to say not traditional, but I really, really took the leap before I was maybe ready. It worked. It all worked out. But I got certified and I hired another coach, a very sort of like high level, quote unquote, coach. And things started to really, really take off in my business. I started to get an influx of clients, and within a month of working with this coach, I put in my 2 weeks at Lululemon. It was, I had been out of Beautiful You, not even a year, and I took my business full time. So I went all in, and it was beautiful, and it worked, and I was so scared. And so my first year was a lot. It was intense. I learned so much. But again, I was like, you know what? I'm going for it. I wouldn't recommend it to everybody, but it's my path and I'm going to own it.
Absolutely. And the only path we can own is our own. But tell me a little bit more about that, because I know that that's going to act as an enormous spark and inspiration for some people that would like to do the same and would like to leave behind what they're currently doing now, likely 3 weeks ago, let alone today or tomorrow. But, I mean, let's face it, okay. But it doesn't necessarily work out for everybody that way. And in fact, most people that way. But also, I'm curious for you to speak to a little bit more, Keri, about why you would not now, as a very experienced coach, and I know that you work with business owners as well within your coaching. You work with women from all different types of backgrounds. Why is it not, however, something that you would necessarily recommend that everyone do? That is, make that leap away from the safety of salaried work quite quickly. Why would you not recommend that?
So obviously, everybody's situation is so unique. So I think why I wouldn't recommend it for one person would probably look different. Is she a mom? Is she a single mom? Right? So there are a lot of different factors that I like to just keep in mind. But just as a kind of blanketed reason as to why I'd be like, hold up, let's check in. Don't just do what I do, is safety in the nervous system. Because, even though it did work for me, it created a lot of anxiety and a lot of sleepless nights. A lot of anxiousness, a lot of inner turmoil between me and my partner. So it just, my system got rocked. It was working on paper, I had the 10K months early on. I had it. And on the inside, I didn't know how to hold it. So our internal system, just like the sake of your nervous system and just peace of mind, but then also just, like, what do your finances look like? Can you maybe wait a little bit and take it part-time instead and save up a little more money? So yeah, but nervous system and just like our inner state, that would be the reason why I would say like, let's hold up.
Yeah, and of course, as you've mentioned, Keri, this is such an individual thing. There is no formula here, everyone. Please, can we all agree upon that, regardless of what type of 7-step system someone might be trying to market or sell to you out there? That cannot be true because it's not necessarily or often tailored for you. Otherwise, it wouldn't be a formula or a system, because there are so many factors that need to be taken into account here. Do you have a mortgage? How much debt are you carrying? Are you a parent? Are you fully able-bodied? What sort of help and support do you have? Do you have savings that are available to you? How is your general health and well-being? Are you the carer for someone else and therefore have extensive other responsibilities in your life? I mean, how long is a piece of string? You know, it's just something we have to be so mindful of. At the same time, it is also brilliant and wonderful to hear about people such as you, Keri, that made the leap, and you've said it is a leap of faith and it's worked out for them. And that's a really wonderful thing to know too. Keri, tell us more then now about the beautiful, soulful and sacred work that you do with women, because you're a very particular type of coach for a very particular type of woman, and that's the impact that you are seeking to have. And so I'd love for you to tell us a little more about that.
Mm-hmm. The pillar of my work, regardless if I'm helping someone make a career transition or become a coach or grow in her existing business, the pillar is always personal leadership. It's the core, it's the foundation of what I do. And it's so interesting too, because when I get a new client and she comes in and there's just this exciting space and this buzz on our first call, one of the first questions I ask is, what is personal leadership to you? And I often get met with, like, what do I do, like, as a boss? Or like, what did my boss who was a man, like his leadership? There's just this very skewed definition. If, like, a lot of the women I speak to, they're like, I don't know. And hello, hand raised. If someone asked me to define personal leadership years ago, I'd be like, what are you talking about? So I get it. And I believe that personal leadership, especially those of us that are coaches and leaders and healers, for this to be like at the forefront of what we do. So when I'm helping a client figure out, like, okay, what is personal leadership to you? It's nothing that is outside of ourselves. It's not the way we look at other people who run companies and business. It's all like, personal leadership is an internal thing. To me, it's actually one of the highest forms of spirituality. And to me, there's no different, because it's who we be in the world. It's how we show up. But not just like in the moments where I'm on Instagram stories and I'm sharing a breakthrough with a client, but when you put the phone down and you've had a crazy day and your partner comes in, like, who are you then behind the scenes, right? So it's just like, it's like who you be, how you show up. To me, this is personal leadership, and it's so incredibly important.
Thank you, Keri. And It doesn't come as a surprise to you, or I don't think anyone who knows me and has been listening to this podcast for a while, that I am in complete agreement with you there. Keri, I'd actually like to shift tack for just a little moment, if I can, and talk about your podcast, because we're here to talk about your success story, and you have, with the Aligned Woman podcast, of which I've been delighted to be a guest on before, and you are a truly beautiful interviewer and space holder in that realm. Aligned Woman is now internationally award nominated podcast. It's 160 plus episodes deep, a very rich and incredible resource that you create and give out to the world for free. And I have a feeling that it has been a significant part of your success story as a coach. Can you tell us a little bit more about that?
Mm-hmm. Wow. That's just such an amazing question. And it absolutely has. And just like I said that I look at leadership as one of the pillars of my business, my podcast, hands down, has been one of the best decisions, if not the best decision I've ever made for my business. And inside of the episodes, like leadership and personal power is all something that it's woven throughout every episode. But how this relates to the success that I've had, I have found my voice through that podcast. I've found my own leadership on that podcast. And it's crazy to see the evolution. I have evolved through this show. And I think it's because I started it in 2018, and it's something that I just continued to show up for. But even when it was just my mom and my sister listening, and it was nothing. And it's crazy too to see that I have a successful podcast, because way back I never ever felt like I had a voice. I never felt like I belong. I didn't feel like I had a purpose, or I just didn't ever feel like I fit in or that I contributed, really. And to have this outlet to show up and use my voice for good, and to do it week after week after week, and then to see how it started to impact people. And then I started to get people reaching out, letting me know how one episode just shifted so much for them. It fueled the fire to what I was doing. And it was my podcast has been like a confirmation to that inner voice. This is what you're meant to do. This is it right here. But yeah, it's so related to the success that I've had.
Yeah, I can see that. I can see that there is a direct line between the two of those things. And it does not necessarily mean, everyone listening, of course, that you have to go out and start a podcast like Keri does, although
Nope.
Podcasts are amazing and they're very popular and all those sorts of things. But it may be something where you get to find your voice and you get to impart your wisdom to the world in that way as well. Keri, it has been so wonderful to have you share your success story and your journey with us today. I would love to ask you, in finishing up, do you have a beautiful Keri pearl of wisdom that you would like to share with everyone in finishing, that if this podcast is being listened to by an up-and-coming coach, somebody who's thinking about training to become one, whatever it might be, what would you love to share with them by way of inspiration for their path ahead?
Mm-hmm. To remember that the pull you have towards this work is so on purpose. And so much of what you have gone through and what brought you to that moment again, it's all signposts telling you that you are meant to do this work. But for you, how you're meant to do it and the way in which you're meant to do it might look completely different than what you see online or what you see people talking about or celebrating. It can look your own way, but continue to follow that nudge, not caring about how many followers or how perfect it needs to look, as much as you can. And I know it's easier said than done. Cut out a lot of the noise and a lot of the shoulds, and it has to look like this, and you've got to hit these numbers, and keep leaning on that inner pull and that inner nudge that you're meant to do this work, because that, like the service and the impact that you're here to create, however you're meant to do that, that's the thing that will continue to carry you through.
It sure will. Keri, what beautiful and inspiring words to leave everyone with today. Thank you so much for being with us on Inspired Coach. We are so proud of you. We are so honored to have you as a part of our alumni. And thank you for your beautiful words and sharing today.
Thank you so much. It was an honor.
Thank you. Everyone, if you would like to learn more about Keri's incredible work and get her podcast in your ears, which I highly recommend that you do. It's just one of those gorgeous, well-rounded personal development, spiritual leadership podcasts for women that I can't recommend enough. Then please make sure you go to the podcast section of our website so you can learn more about this truly brilliant coach and her work.